Welcome back. In our previous section, we looked at a variety of ways to provide advanced interaction for data visualization users. In this section, we're going to talk about different ways to deploy data visualizations so that users will engage and adopt our work. So we're going to talk about different ways to deploy these visualizations, and different user groups will have different needs, and that's going to affect how we output our data visualization content. What we'll cover in this section, we're going to take a brief introduction, little overview of different deployment approaches, and then we'll have specific videos dedicated to dealing with static formats and how we can handle those formats such as PDF or image files. Then we'll have a video that looks specifically at how we can edit static content using the Inkscape tool. We'll follow that with a deploying to the web video, how we can push data visualizations, both static and interactive, to the web. And we'll conclude this section looking specifically at embedding web visualizations, both into a blog or into social media. So a little overview of some considerations when we deploy visualizations. We can start with static outputs, and this is still a very popular way to do it in corporate or organizational settings where people are printing things out for meetings or for sharing, and we've got formats such as image files or PDFs or PowerPoints in this realm. So we need to consider our user base when we're creating our data visualizations, because we may need to push them into these formats. If we want to enhance some of these data vises beyond what we've gotten out of the native program where we created them, we can use tools like Inkscape, a great free tool for doing it, or Adobe Illustrator if you've got access to that. And then we can add elements and we can change colors. We can do all sorts of post editing in those softwares. We can also push a lot of data visualizations out to the web, whether they're static in an image format, for example, or ideally in some sort of interactive version. And then we can embed a lot of our data visualizations in blogs or social media. So let's begin by looking at exporting to static formats. And what we're going to cover in this video is why it's often necessary to design static formats for printed output, then how we can begin to edit those in Inkscape, and we'll go into greater detail in the next video on that one, and then different ways we can push these image or static formats out to the web for further use, and then a quick look at how we can embed some of this in a blog or social media. And some of the reasons we still export to static formats, even though we've got a lot of great tools now to give people the ability to interact with our data visualization, but many users still need more static versions for printing out or sharing in meetings, where they're either not going to have the tools or the skills to interact with a data visualization. They want a finished product. And a static output is often what that finished product is. So the upside of this is that if we create things that can be pushed into PDF or image formats, gives us a much wider audience than we could get only from interactive visualizations. So ideally, we'd like to be able to do both. So to recap why we spend time exporting to static formats, not necessarily glamorous or as fun to play with, but they're necessary to reach certain audiences. So I've already mentioned Inkscape. Here's a screenshot of it. And what I've done here is imported a file that I've already edited previously in Inkscape. So we had some output generated by Jeffy and Sigma.js. And then I wanted to add some content, just some ellipses here, highlighting certain parts of the graph. And This was all done previously in Inkscape. So it's very easy to do, and we can just use Inkscape to import a very wide variety of different formats, as you can see. So very useful tool for post editing, and again, we'll see more in the next video. Some different ways we can get some of this content out to the web and make it easier to share. We can use file sharing tools like Box or Dropbox, and we can upload files there and provide access to specific users or to general public and provide them with URL links so they can access that content. So very useful there. We can do that also from the desktop with a tool like FileZilla, where we can upload from the desktop to a remote site. And again, we can either use that content more easily on the web via links, or we can provide a link to somebody else. And then another way to push some of this content out to the web, for example, if you've got a WordPress site, very easy to just insert media into a post. And what WordPress is doing is setting up HTML tags, and then we can easily add this static content to our blog posts. And we can do, of course, very similar things, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter, works in very similar fashion. So these are all great ways to get content out to the web, static content, so we can expand our user base. So to summarize, static formats are critical in many cases. Online sharing, different presentations, we want to have that ability to create static formats, even if it's just a very simple PNG file or screenshot. And then using these PDF or image files can help us reach an additional audience that we can't get to or we can't always access using proprietary software tools.